Okay, so key issue 2 is pretty heavy on vocabulary. All right, we're looking first at crude birth rate, crude death rate, and natural increase rate. All right, this is basically exactly what it sounds like. The crude birth rate is the total number of births per 1,000 births in a certain area. Okay, so if you've got a really high one, that means that you're having lots of babies. All right, crude death rate is the total number of deaths for every 1,000 people. Again, if you've got a super high crude death rate, chances are you're living in a pretty sketchy area. All right, and then you've got natural increase rate, which is your crude birth rate minus your crude death rate. All right, so your natural increase is going to look something like this. All right, so the natural increase should be relatively low. All right, but our actual increase was crazy high, and so our world population is continuing to spike. All right, that's not good, and we'll talk about why in key issue 3, but generally speaking, not a good thing. All right, now let's look at doubling time. All right, this is something that's super, super important. This is basically just the amount of time that it's going to take your population to double. So if your population is currently 6 million and it's going to take you 45 years to get to 12 million, then your doubling time is 45 years. All right, so right here is the way the population looks, right? We're seeing not a very big increase, but then right here we see a massive spike. All right, that's not good, and Malthus is going to tell us why in key issue 3. Okay, so our natural increase rate is actually going to be highest in the developing nations, specifically Africa. Okay, and we'll talk about why that is. It's basically we've had the medical revolution, so everybody's got access to medicine, but people still are having more babies than they need to have because they're used to those babies dying. Okay, so since those babies aren't dying anymore and we've got more people aging, then we're going to see a higher population. All right, fertility, mortality, this is basically, it's exactly what it sounds like, okay? Fertility is how many babies is a woman going to have over her lifetime. Mortality is, how many people are going to die, okay? So your fertility rate, your mortality rate, it's basically how many babies are you going to have in your country, how many of your people are going to die, okay? So again, something that's important to look at, especially when there's a ton of maps in a chapter, is how do those maps correlate? Okay, so here we see Africa with being super bright. Here we see Africa being super bright. And so right here we're talking about natural increase rate per year. Right here we're talking about crude birth rate per population. Okay, so it makes sense that your natural increase is going to be higher if you're having a lot of babies. All right, same thing right here. Africa's super bright again, so we can assume that it has something to do with having a lot of babies. We look right over here, children per childbearing years per woman, and so we're seeing it at 4 and above, right? Women are having more than 4 kids, which is not sustainable, all right? Now, Africa's not as lit up. Let's see what it is. It's crude death rate per 1,000 persons, all right? So you've got to ask the question, why would these guys have a lower crude death rate? And the answer is because you've got people that are older in some of these other places that are dying of simply old age, whereas these guys are starting to live longer due to the medical revolution. They're going to have crazy high crude death rates in 50 years, 60 years, but right now it's still relatively low. All right, now we're getting into the fun stuff. All right, this is population pyramids. You want your population pyramid to look basically like this. All right, you want it to be pretty straight. You don't want an actual pyramid, because basically what this shows is you've got men on the left, women are always right, all right, and it's blue and red for our purposes, but colors aren't really gender neutral. But yeah, so the population pyramids show you a lot about a place. All right, in the United States, we've got a relatively even dispersion of our population. However, in Lawrence, Kansas, which is where a college is located, you're going to see a lot more people in that 20 to 24 range, right? That's why it's super wide right here. In Naples, Florida, where there's retirement communities, you've got a bunch of old people living here. And in Laredo, Texas, where we just had this huge oil boom, we're having middle-aged people move there and have babies. All right, so that's basically what those show. Definitely make sure that you get down dependency ratio. This is hugely important. Basically what this is the number of old people plus the number of young people, like under the age of 14, that the working class people are going to have to support. So you don't want to have too many of those, otherwise your working class people can't support them. You want to take down sex ratio, which is basically just men to woman. And then that pretty much does it for key issue 2. So key issue 1 and key issue 2 under 10 minutes. So that's pretty solid, guys.